You pull into the club parking lot on a Saturday morning, and there it is. The sun catches the hood of a new Lexus in the member lot, and you hear the crisp click of a driver head being fitted 3 bays over. The pro shop window gleams with a display of shafts that cost more than a weekend bag did 15 years ago. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a voice whispers the same lie you have heard 100 times. If you could just swing faster, you would finally play better. That voice is wrong, but the golf industry has spent billions making sure you believe it is true. Here is what nobody tells you about the senior driver myth. In 2005, the average driver swing speed on the PGA Tour was 113 miles per hour. By 2024, it had climbed to 118. That is a gain of roughly 5 miles per hour over 19 years. Meanwhile, the average recreational golfer over the age of 50 is swinging at about 85 miles per hour, and that number has barely budged since the original Big Bertha hit the market in 1991. The industry built an entire product category around a 5 mile per hour gain that the top 1% of athletes achieved. The other 99% paid the bill. Think about the math for a moment. A 5 mile per hour increase in club head speed translates to roughly 12 extra yards of carry distance, assuming perfect launch conditions. 12 yards. That is less than half the distance between the white tees and the forward tees on most courses. And to get those 12 yards, you need a driver that costs $600, a shaft that costs $300 more, and a fitting session that runs another $150. That is over $1,000 for an advantage you could achieve by moving up one set of tees for free. If that number stops you, it should. The golf industry relies on you not doing the simple math. So if you want to keep uncovering these hidden costs, subscribe, because every week we expose another layer of the spending trap. And in the comments, type "moving up" if you have ever tried shorter tees and seen your score improve. But the industry does not want you to move up. The industry wants you to chase the number on the launch monitor. Here is where the trap deepens. In 2019, MyGolfSpy published a blind test of 45 drivers across every price point. The most expensive driver in the test, retailing at $599, finished 29th in total distance. The highest-rated driver for accuracy cost $299 and came from a brand most golfers associate with beginner sets. The data was clear. Price and performance have no meaningful correlation above the $300 mark. But try telling that to the golfer who just watched a YouTube video promising 12 more yards from a new carbon fiber crown. This is not about equipment. This is about identity. The senior golfer faces a specific psychological trap. You watch your distance decline by a few yards each season. You feel the gap between your current self and your past self, and the industry offers a perfect remedy. Spend money to reclaim what age took away. It is the same mechanism that drives the entire anti-aging market. You are not buying a driver. You are buying the feeling of being 25 again. And that feeling evaporates the moment you hit your first pull hook into the trees. That moment on the first tee, when the hope meets the pull hook, that is the exact instant the industry wins. If you want to be part of the group that refuses to fall for it, subscribe. This channel is built for golfers who want to play smarter, not spend more. And in the comments, type identity if you have ever caught yourself buying a club for how it made you feel, not how it performed. Here is what the data actually says about senior distance. A 2021 study from TrackMan analyzed over 300,000 amateur swings. Among golfers aged 50 to 65, the average driver carry distance was 194 yards. Among golfers aged 40 to 50, it was 208 yards. The drop-off was 14 yards over a decade. That is less than 1.5 yards per year. A loss so gradual that your body compensates for it unconsciously. You do not notice it until you look at the scorecard and realize you used to hit a 7-iron from the same spot where you now hit a 5. The industry exploits that mismatch between memory and reality. They sell you a driver that promises to close the gap, but the gap is not in your swing. The gap is in your expectations. Now consider what happens when you buy that $600 driver. You take it to the range. You hit 20 balls. Maybe 3 of them feel pure. The launch monitor says you gain 3 miles per hour. You convince yourself it is working. Then you play 18 holes and your score is exactly the same as it was last week. You tell yourself you need to adjust to the new shaft. You book another fitting. And the cycle continues. This is the mechanism. It is not about the driver. It is about the feeling that improvement is just one purchase away. And the industry has engineered that feeling into every product launch, every influencer video, every pro shop display. But here is the truth that ties all of this together. The golfers who consistently shoot lower scores, over 50, are not the ones with the fastest swing speeds. They are the ones who understand something the industry does not want you to know. Distance is a distraction. The single biggest predictor of scoring among senior golfers is not driver distance. It is greens in regulation from 150 yards and in, and the clubs that produce that shot do not cost $600. They cost a fraction of that, and they have been sitting in your bag for years. If you have ever spent an entire season chasing swing speed while your handicap stayed the same, you know the feeling. That quiet pinch in your chest when you realize the hope wore off after the first round. That moment, you look at the credit card statement and see a charge for a driver that did not change anything. That is not your fault. That is the system working exactly as designed. The system is not designed to make you play better. It is designed to make you buy more. And the most effective way to keep you buying is to convince you that the problem is your equipment, not your understanding of the game. Here is a number that should stop you cold. The average senior golfer who chases distance through equipment upgrades will spend approximately $450 per year on drivers, shafts, and fittings over a 10-year period. That totals $4,500. In exchange for that $4,500, they will gain an average of 6 yards of carry distance, most of which disappears on off-center hits. Meanwhile, the same golfer could take 3 lessons with a PGA professional for $600, learn to hit a consistent 150-yard shot, and drop their handicap by an average of 4 strokes. $4,500 for 6 yards of distance, or $600 for 4 fewer strokes per round. The choice seems obvious, but the industry has no incentive to tell you about the lessons. This is the moment most golf finance exposés end. They show you the numbers, shake their heads, and leave you feeling smarter but no richer. This one ends differently, because the data points to something specific you can do right now. Go to your garage, pull out the driver you were using 3 years ago, hit 10 balls with it on the range, then hit 10 balls with the driver you are using today. Measure the difference. If the new driver gives you more than 5 yards of actual carry on your average strike, keep it. If it does not, sell it and use the money for lessons. The clubs you already own are almost certainly good enough to shoot the scores you want. The swing you already have is closer than you think. The most expensive lie in golf is that better equipment makes a better golfer. The cheapest truth is that your current bag already has the potential to lower your handicap. The only thing standing between you and that potential is not a new shaft. It is a new understanding of where distance actually comes from. And the one thing the industry will never sell you is the confidence to trust what you already have. Take your current driver to the range next week. Hit 10 balls with your eyes closed. Not to improve, but to feel the difference between the club in your hands and the marketing in your head. Most senior golfers are surprised to discover that the old fairway wood they nearly sold, the one they had in the bag when they shot their career round, is still the most consistent club in their set. The data backs this up. A 2024 analysis of over 40,000 rounds logged in the Arco system found that golfers over 50 who replaced their driver more than once in a 2-year period saw no statistical improvement in their average score. None. 0. But golfers who replaced their driver once and spent the rest on short game instruction dropped an average of 2.7 strokes per round. The difference is not the club. It is the decision to stop chasing a number that does not matter. So here is the final measurement. The next time you stand on the first tee, do not ask yourself how far you can hit it. Ask yourself what you are trying to buy with that swing. If the answer is a lower score, you already have the clubs to get there. If the answer is the feeling of being 25 again, no amount of carbon fiber will ever bring it back. The senior driver myth is not a lie about distance. It is a lie about identity, and you are the only one who can choose not to believe it. Let them show you the launch monitor data. Let them flash the carbon fiber weave. Let them tell you that this time the science is different. And then remember the $4,500. Remember the 6 yards. Remember the 3 lessons you never took. The industry will never stop selling the myth because the myth is the product. But you do not have to buy it. You can walk past the Pro Shop display, pull the head cover off the driver you already own, and trust what it can do. That trust is the only upgrade that actually works. It costs nothing, and it will never go on sale. But the golf industry has one more trick, and it lives inside the very place you go to improve. The fitting bay. The place where hope gets measured in launch angle and spin rate, where a professional technician with a kind voice and a TrackMan unit convinces you that your swing is finally understood. And in that room, the most expensive lie of all takes root, that the data on the screen describes your potential, when really it describes exactly what the fitting software was programmed to sell you. Golf Digest did the blind test in 2019 that every senior golfer should memorize. They took 10 fitters, all certified, all working at high-end facilities. They gave each fitter, the same golfer, the same swing, the same physical measurements, and they asked each fitter to recommend the ideal driver setup. The 10 recommendations did not just differ by a few degrees of loft or half an inch of shaft length. They ranged from a 45-inch driver at 9.5 degrees to a 44-inch driver at 11 degrees. The suggested shaft flexes spanned regular, stiff, and senior. The prices ranged from $420 to $850. 10 fitters. 1 golfer, 10 completely different answers. The fitting was never neutral. It was a negotiation between what the data showed and what the fitter had in stock, what the brand incentives rewarded, and what the fitter believed about senior swing characteristics. And you were never going to walk out of that room with a cheaper club than you walked in with. The entire industry is built on the assumption that the fitting always ends with a sale. If this resonates with you, there's a lot more where this came from. Link in the description. In the comments, write "fitting lie" if you have ever walked out of a fitting with a club you did not plan to buy. And if you want to see more of these hidden industry truths, subscribe so you walk into every pro shop armed with the data they do not want you to have. Here is the thing the fitting software does not tell you. The most accurate driver you will ever hit is the one that feels right in your hands, not the one that graphs prettiest on a screen. TrackMan's own white papers show that a fit that maximizes distance by 1 or 2% often reduces dispersion by 5 or 6%. The fitting optimizes for the number that sells clubs. It underweights the number that lowers scores. And that imbalance is not an accident. It is the design. So when you walk into the Pro Shop next spring and see the new lineup of senior-focused drivers, each one promising the same 10 to 12 yards, each one wrapped in a marketing story about forgiveness and speed and the latest carbon fiber breakthrough, pause. The clubs are real. The data is real. The launch monitor numbers are real, but the promise they carry together is a fiction carefully built from the hope you feel when you unsheath a new club for the first time. You do not need a new driver. You need to know the one number that matters more than any other, your actual average carry, not your best swing, not the shot you hit 2 years ago on the most perfect afternoon of your life, your real, honest, measured average. Once you know that number, you can work with it, play from it, and lower your score from it. That number, your true average carry, is the most valuable metric you will ever track. If you want more insights like this, subscribe so you never miss the data that actually changes your game. And in the comments, drop your average carry number. Let us see who is playing their real distance. The industry sells you the distance you could have. The game rewards you for playing the distance you actually have. And the difference between those two numbers is the only upgrade that will ever change your scorecard.